I'm sad that the people from Uniondale left. In 1942, so I'm not holding you responsible for this, the town board here passed a resolution creating the Westbury East Garden City Fire District. I received the foil from Mr. Robb back in 2013 because I did visit the Uniondale Community Council, their civic several times, and they expressed interest, so I wanted to find out. So just for your edification, the town board did.
That's a fire district.
That's fire protection district. Yeah, no, but
it's a fire protection.
No, I understand, but I think they created something called Westbury East Garden City Fire Protection District. So they created something with a name on it, with East Garden City. So it brings the roots of that name, East Garden City, goes back to 1942.
Which is how long East Garden City.
That's exactly. That was my point. I just wanted to bring that up to you. Like I said, I'm not holding you responsible for what happened in 1942. One thing, but when I first started, another thing just on the Uniondale issue, when I attended these meetings at one time back in 2010, they invited you to their meetings and you declined because you have to attend, teach 6th grade catechism, I think it was, if I got it right.
Yes.
And,
which you still teach.
Yeah, I understand. Appreciate it. The thing is, the internet, is really great for getting information. I see a letter from you to Mr. Duncan, I believe, for Parks and Civic Leader there. You want to go to his civic or whatever organization, I forget exactly, to meet with him about, at the time, the issue was gambling in Belmont. And recently at OTB, something that was also outside your purview in the town, you stood in front of cameras, the video, you and the other leaders of the community stood, I'm just wondering if you would be willing to go in front of the cameras for this East Garden City issue that they're talking about to help facilitate it. I understand, and I agree with you that the town doesn't designate the federal maps, but I'm saying, but to go out even, like I said, you went out and you were like the OTB. No, I'm saying, what I said in particular, go out, call a press conference, and really make an issue of it. I just wanted to touch on those issues that we discussed today.
I think it's more effective to actually talk to the federal representative.
No, that's good too, but go in front of the camera, and you understand the power of the moving image better than most of us here. And that's why you do call press conferences for certain things, and you don't call press conferences for other things. I understand that, but I'm saying if you wanted to make an extra effort to be public about it, put your face on it, and your face is well known. We have one of the highest recognition rates of any elected official on Long Island, I think in New York State. But anyway, okay, that's really just on history. Recently, I informed the town board that invoices submitted by Mr. Shelton, owner of Vigilant Consulting, were vague. In particular, the details of Mr. Shelton's invoices were largely redacted, and in many cases did not reflect the work he was contracted to do. For example, Mr. Shelton indicated he did legislative services for the majority, even though he was only hired to do fire diplomatic district consulting. I also informed the board that Christopher Shelton works for Citizens for Santino, has received over $60,000, has donated over $3,000 to Citizens for Santino. In addition, I discovered that Mr. Shelton's wife also works as a confidential assistant to Human Resources Director, and I believe that she was hired in the past year. In light of these facts, supported entirely by the town's own documents, nothing, I didn't concoct any of this, what changes has the town board implemented or planned to implement in regards to work done by outside contractors for professional services to ensure that, one, they're being hired in the best interest of the public, two, they are doing the work specified in their contract, and three, working the hours they say they are?
To change any policy that's already expected.
Well, like I said, when I think I counted 20, don't quote me on it, 20 times on one invoice redacted. The name of the fire officials and the fire districts he met with weren't even on the invoices. That's a shortcoming If somebody gave you an invoice, if you bought a car, and they wouldn't even put the name of the dealership, the name of the salesperson, the name of the car, or anything on the invoice, and just wrote a number, would you accept that as a valid invoice? I mean, that's exactly what I foiled, and this is exactly what your comptroller is signing off on, and what the town attorney Joe Rock is signing off on. And how can you see, I can't dig any further into this because there's nothing else to dig into. So my recommendation, since you apparently haven't looked into it, is change your policy on how you hire professional people and what you expect of them as far as invoicing, so public and people who are interested in making government efficient and rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse could pull up these invoices and see, at least on paper, because it's really hard to test in reality, that they are doing the work that they are paid very handsomely to do. His fee has gone up from like $45,000 a year to, I think the last invoice that was a price was over $70,000, and it's only for like 60 hours a month.
Well, I believe we don't have to change anything because that's
Okay.
the policy that's what we
Okay,
expect
then
of all of our workers, whether they're outside contractors or employees.
you're happy with a redacted invoice. Okay.
Thank you.
No, I'm not finished. Should Councilman Santino have recused himself when he proposed some people spoke for 11 minutes today, and we get the bell around this much. Now the microphone's off. Should Councilman Santino have recused himself from voting on it? He proposed this resolution back in 2007 to hire Mr. Shelton. Citizens for Santino hires Mr. Shelton. There's a conflict of interest. Mr. Shelton's wife works for the town of Hempstead in the personnel department. There's so many conflicts of interest. Yes, he did recuse himself. I saw Mr. Blakeman today recused himself. He didn't specify the reason for talking about tow truck issues. But shouldn't Councilman Santino have recused himself from voting on this and disclose his relationship with a town subcontractor?
I don't see any conflict.
You don't see any conflict?
I don't see any conflict, but I'm not.
Okay.
Under the ethics rules, he did not have.
Okay, yeah, I just want to get you to say this. I'm not finished yet. I haven't spoken for as long as some people spoke, but you didn't get up and walk out on
We
anyone.
actually have Women's History Month.
You didn't get up and walk out on anyone else. Supervisor
We'll
Murray.
be on the 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, but you let people talk for 11 minutes today.